first of all, I'm super excited about this, and I'm really excited to have Lisa on the faculty. She's new to us this session, and I'm absolutely thrilled. And I'm excited that you're all here. This is a really nice big group of people who are excited about learning about, what Lisa has to show us. I think by this point, most of us are fairly used to Zoom. Just two things that are really important. I'm going to mute everybody. It doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. We're just trying to keep down on the background noise. So anytime you have anything to say, just unmute yourself and speak up. Is there anybody who doesn't know how to unmute themselves? Just raise your hand.
Probably me.
Okay. Sally, are you, and you're on an iPad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you tap your screen, there should be a little icon of a microphone, and it should say mute next to it.
Got it.
Okay, so if you mute yourself, and then it'll say unmute, and then you can anybody else need help with that? Okay. The other thing is, and it's not as important in this class because I'm going to kind of control the screen for you, but when you're taking one of our real classes, then you can switch between gallery and speaker view. So if anybody needs help with that, I can go through that really fast. We're all good with that? Okay. I think that's it. So Lisa, I'm going to mute everybody, including you. So just unmute yourself really fast right after I do it. Here we go.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Bebi, and thank you for joining me. I'm very excited. The project that I have for this half hour is to, and I think you can see my hand here and my photocopy is this is a picture of my daughter Rosie when she was 6 years old, and I use this all the time in various what?
Now I see it.
Okay, up here. So it will switch to this back and forth. I don't have control over that. So anyway, this is a picture of Rosie when she was 6 years old, and was done by a professional photographer. So I use it a lot because anything that I do is because it's simple. It's simple display of her. The light is good on her. It's not just an ordinary snapshot. I like it also because it's dark behind her, and then it starts to get light towards the feet. And that I'm going to tell you why that makes it easier, and because she's cute. One of these days she's probably going to sue me over this, but so far she said it's okay. I use her image, and I've used this image so many times. I've sold my paintings of her, and also I've published. I've written articles, and she's been published in magazines and books. So she gets around. And now she's 26 years old. She doesn't look like that anymore. Okay, so I created this technique called the paint over a long time ago, and I have spin-offs from it. So there's different ways that I treat a photocopy for different effects. So this one that we're doing today is the simplest way that I work with a photocopy. I do other ones, and those are my classes that are coming up, where I do a staining technique or a tinting technique, sort of like tinting a photo like they used to do in the old days, except for with a little bit more paint. Then I do something called the oversaturated Polaroid look, something I made up, but it's a very saturated color to mimic, something oversaturated like a photo. And then finally I do, we make them into expressions and things like that. So I said it was optional to have a pen. This is a Copic marker, and my color is, this one's brick beige, but usually I have barely beige or something like that. But it's a skin tone that's sort of close to what her skin tone is. If you don't have it, that's fine, because I said it was optional. So this is what I do. If you do have it, really quickly, the first thing I do is I color everything. I color her hair and her face. I just go over, I'm going to paint on top, so I don't really care if I'm in the lines. I kind of do on her little sweet dress, but which is a slip. So I just go over the skin, I'm gonna paint on top of it in a minute, but I just like to give her a color, a warmth to the skin, because I don't like just the black and white appearance. It looks sort of dead to me. So I use the marker. And it could stay like that. I don't have to paint the face. Sometimes some of my work, I just leave it as a photo, as a tinted color. The next thing I'm going to do is how I'm going to approach this is I'm going to paint the background first, which is called the negative space. I pay attention to the line where I think the horizon line is. So I'm going to switch colors. I'm going to go from turquoise to green here. I'm going to make her dress yellow and her leggings yellow. And I'm going to show you how I paint skin tone. And then I drop in some pink here and there and a few other little places just to keep the eye moving around on the image. So what I have are some different paint brushes. I have burnt sienna. This is for skin tone, so I'm putting that aside. I use that with white. I have pink, turquoise. I have a yellow. What else did I say to have? Well, I got white and green. And I'm going to use Craft Smart Apple Tart because I like bright green. So I'm going to use that. Now, the reason I can use a bright green and turquoise and stuff is because I already have a color on my image. It's got the black and white or the gray tone, the grayscale is there. So when I paint the background, which I'm going to do right now, I'm going to show you that I do it as sort of in a sheer way so that the black or the dark of the background comes through. And that helps me with shading or midtones, so that it's not just going to be, turquoise here and green here. It's going to have some midtone in there. So you'll see in a second. And I think that's about it. So the first thing I'm going to do is get I don't like that turquoise. All right, well, I'll use this turquoise. And I have here, this is a palette. This is just some like wax paper. So I'm going to put my paint out on that. I have paper towels ready. I have my paintbrushes ready. Bucket of water over here. You can't see it, but it's there. And move her back in so you can see. I'm going to use about this size brush because I like to use, not everybody is like me. I like to use an extra bigger brush than you would expect on an 8x10 because I'm impatient. I like to get the job done. So I'm loading my brush up and I'm going to paint around her. There's more water in my brush than I wanted. And I'm just going to paint down to this line here. And I'm going to paint into the white area because this may not fit exactly on an 8x10. In fact, I'm going to get this out of here. So while you're painting, it's going to curl a little bit. And another technique that I teach, we wet the entire paper first and then it just stays flat. But if it curls a little bit, don't worry about it. Just, be sure you don't, when you go around her head, don't give her too much of a haircut. Just try to be careful on that part. And I finish here. And my style of painting is very loose. So I don't, I'm not doing fine art here. I'm doing expressive painting. And this is sort of an impressionistic piece. So you can see that some of the dark is still coming through. I can go over some other areas, sort of leaving an arc around her. So I put a little heavier paint on the sides. Okay, now I'm going to go to the green and do the ground in the same fashion. Maybe not. So I have a little puddle of green here, and I'm just gonna do the foreground. Pay attention underneath her feet. It's dark because there's sort of a shadow there. So I'm going to go lighter. I'm gonna paint heavier up here by the line. But I'm gonna lighten up. I'm gonna clean off my brush and go lighter by the feet because that'll allow the darker to come through. It's sort of the opposite of how you would think. So the less paint I have on my brush, the more the dark's gonna pop through. And oh, the other thing is I don't never clean my brush, so there's gonna be turquoise on there. So I'm just gonna bring this down here, paint it all the way out, right to where she stands, where the shadow is. This is a really cheap brush. I like them. I like them cheap on occasion because the bristles, you know, sort of splay out and it makes it more expressive. Okay, so I have, oh, don't forget to go between her legs. So I have that there and I have it kind of scratchy, but now I'm gonna clean off my brush a tiny bit and paint this part so that the dark part of the photocopy shows through. So we're actually using the photocopy, what's there, as part of the art element. Okay, so we've got that much done. That's good. Don't worry that this is a different color than this. We'll worry about that in a minute. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is take my, this is a little bit tricky, so pay attention. I'm going to take my brush and clean it off and just get a little bit of this turquoise on, just add a lot of water to what's there so that I have sort of an ink almost, well, just sort of dirty water really. And, you know, sort of tap your brush off. And I'm going to just take it and go down where I think the shadow of her dress is. So it's down under her arm here, a little along the bottom on her legs, because I think that's shadowed. Even under her arm, right? Her back, and even a little bit along her face. So if you don't have much on your brush, can you see how much I have on my brush? It's not much. And this is the shadow. And the reason I do that is because if you were in an environment that was painted and not in a real sunshine, the kind of shadow you would have would mimic the environment that you're in. So I've got this sort of turquoisey environment that she's in. So she's going to have a turquoisey shadow even on her face and in her hair a little bit like that. Okay. Next, we're going to go to clean your brush off and we're going to go into the yellow because we're going to do her dress. I need to get one more palette here. Oh, that was way too much yellow. That's all right. Okay, and then if you have a little bit smaller brush, like say that size, pick up some of your yellow and we're going to paint her dress. I always paint down the front. You know, the sunshine is coming. You can tell on her face that the sun is sort of coming this direction, and because the shadow is on this side, right? So this is going to be the brightest part. So the thickest part of the paint goes in the front. Like like so. And then you can wipe off your brush a little bit and then bring it over into this area that you made blue. And that's going to make it look kind of greenish, but that's okay. It'll still work. Okay. So now we got our dress in. And so we're going to work on her skin and her hair now. So we have yellow on our brush, clean it off. And this is important because it's really hard for beginners especially to understand how hair works. A lot of times they just paint the hair and then it looks like a helmet. How we approach it, we already have the grayscale there. We already have the shadows in there, and but we're just going to paint it. So just try and stroke it like you're brushing her hair on the highlights, just on the highlights. And leave the dark.
What color is that?
This is the yellow that's on our brush still. And we have, leave the darkest darks alone, just the highlights. Okay. If I painted over the dark areas, then I'd have a helmet for her. Oh, I forgot to do her legs. So you can take some yellow, thin it like we just did for her hair, and just start from the bottom and work your way up on the legs. We've already got that blue there. So, you know, her legs are shadowed. They're under her dress. They're underneath her. So it'll just continue to look shadowed. So now we have a couple of colors on her dress and legs, right? Okay. So next, let's do her skin tone. So to do that, you need your white and your burnt sienna. And you only need like a drop of the burnt sienna. And I'm going to turn my palette around because it's getting messy around here. I should have gotten a fresh palette. Okay. Goes back here. All right. So burnt sienna. I happen to have any kind of burnt sienna works. I happen to have golden. I'm going to just put a drop out like that. And then I have white. Maybe a glob of white. Drop of burnt sienna, a glob of white. And then get one of your smaller brushes. I have one that is in here somewhere. I have a little round brush. It's a number 4. So you get a little scoop of the burnt sienna on your brush and put a pile. We're going to make a new pile. Put it there, and then get a bigger scoop of the white and add it in there and just stir it around. And you should get something that looks like kind of like a skin tone. I mean, I'm working with a white person, right? If we're working with another ethnicity, we would have a different combination. But she's a blonde. And you can adjust it. So the reason I do it this way, where I make a new puddle, is because a lot of times, even when I began, I would just put it right in the big puddle, and then I would just have a big glob of the wrong color, and I'd have to keep piling on. So I make a little side puddle, and if it's not right, I can always bring it out and, you know, adjust it. So now I have two different colors, and that's good because this one could be the shadow of her face, and this could be the lighter part of her face, right? I can make that a little darker. Now I'm going to clean off my brush because it's a little bit goopy, and I'm going to take some of this. Okay, so this is not going to be just straight on painting. We're going to actually drop the color in like it's a dye. So I'm going to make this milky. It's pretty milky in texture. I also wipe off my brush a little bit so it's not going to just glop completely down. And then doing her face, this is the lightest color for her face. So I'm going to just touch the lightest part on her face. So that would be the tip of her forehead, the tip of her nose, her cheeks, and her chin. So I'm just going to drop that color in there, and you might not even really see it too much. And that's going to sink in because we're working on paper. It's going to sink in. And if you inadvertently, you know, cover up her eye will come back. It'll pop back once it sinks in. So just do the lightest part with the lightest color. Like that. And you can do her neck too. Avoid doing the darkest darks, like leave her nostrils and her eyes alone, and leave her teeth alone. We're going to do the same with her shoulder. The lightest part goes right on this part of her shoulder, and you just drag the rest of it down on her arm. And you can do the same with her feet. The lightest part. Then once you get, see, I have big globs on her feet. Once you get, you know, your globs on there, then you can dry off your brush and then push what you have over into the darker area so that it's thinner. The paint is thinner when it goes over into the darker area so that the dark will come up. You don't want to obscure the shouldn't sink in. Otherwise it looks like she's got little white boots on. Okay. So now you can take some of your darker, maybe make it a little darker. And again, we're making it inky, or milky. Wipe it off a little bit. And you can just drop it on the side of her face. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, just leave it alone. But if you want to have a little bit of a color, you can just drop it in on the side of her face, under her chin a little bit along this side. I tap my finger on it. Sorry. And on that shoulder, we already have that blue there, so. And then wipe off your brush and adjust it by pulling it across. So this is really just staining. I mean, this is Impressionism, so you're not going to get her, you're really not going to get her features. You just can recognize it's my daughter. You don't care. It's not your daughter. So you just recognize it as a little girl there. I got a cough. I'll give you a second. Now the last thing is the pink. And for the pink, we're going to just dab it. You can go back to your medium-sized brush. And just dab in her flowers. It needs the pink. And I, just because, oh, here, I need to push this over. Just because, for no reason other than for composition, I put a little bit of pink color up in this area. And then you can put a little here and there, like little flowers, dotting it in here and there. So it's kind of interesting. So the flowers that are closer to you would be brighter or thicker dabs. And the ones further away would be smaller and, you know, hardly any color at all. because the further away you see something, the less saturated the color is, maybe a little more than that. Okay, so that's basically it. Of course, if this were a full-on class, I would show you like how you could blend some other colors in here to make it richer. And, you know, a little bit more about how to work with the face and the features and things like that. And other things I do is just really quickly, what's the matter, Sammy? You know, and I also work with the background more, like I sometimes come across with another color. This is just what I do. And this is what I teach to be more expressive. And then when I get the other color in, I do some scribing in it and all kinds of things like that. But for our purposes right now, this is as good as it gets. I just wanted to show you very quickly. I'm not sure how I'm doing on time. Oh, I think I'm out of time. But I'll do this real quick anyway. I have a board here and I have a painting. I'll get rid of this. And in order to get it on your board, what I do is I just measure it. The pencil. Oops. And then I cut it down with scissors. And remember, on yours, you've painted all the way to the edge. I didn't on this one. But I'm going to cut it down really roughly because I'm out of time, but you would do a nicer job.
Lisa,
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
When you do this, do you paint on copy paper or could this be printed on photo paper and painted?
I always paint on copy paper.
Okay.
I don't use photo paper because it's got emulsion on it and the paint will just bead up on it and you'll have to be fighting that all the time. So copy paper is very absorbent, you know, just regular paper.
Right.
And I work with that idea of it being absorbent.
Okay.
So that it takes the stains and whatnot. Okay, I'm going to pretend that this fits this exactly. And that I'm going to pretend also that I painted to the edges, just to show you how to adhere it to a substrate. Now I have a board here. Most of the time I'm putting it on a canvas that has some play in it. And it works the same way for either one. So, whoa. How'd you like that trip? So I have here some matte medium and this is my technique. This is old, but anyway, I pour in a pretty good size amount of it. That's more than I need, but that's okay because I'm going to show you why. I got to stand up though. I have a pretty good sized brush. And so you want to make sure one key is that you want to make sure that every bit is wet. Don't want any dry spots, will make bubbles. So you get it all wet, cover it completely. And then how I do it, I don't know anybody else who does it this way, but it's foolproof, is I put the image into it so that, see, I put way more on than I need so that this will get wet. And then you don't want to leave it like this because then you will glue it down this way. So I've never really had anybody actually glue theirs down this way, but I do it this way because I get medium on both sides really quick, lickety split. So I think I actually need a little more.
So all of a sudden you've disappeared from me.
I did?
No, I can see I need the big screen on you. I don't know why. Oh,
How about now?
Sandy, try just swiping your finger left or right.
On what? My little
Are you on an iPad or are you on a computer?
computer.
Oh gosh. Well, that's strange.
Yeah, so I see 5 people on my right, but I
okay.
can't see the demo.
Are you on a Mac?
No,
A
I'm
PC?
I'm on a, yes, Mac,
Okay.
MacBook Air.
I think you just are out of Zoom. So there should be a dock on the bottom of your screen. You just need to click on the Zoom icon.
Zoom, a dot, brother.
A dock, like a strip on the bottom of your screen that has all your programs.
I see the, oh shoot, how did I? But then I just went back and clicked on the Zoom. Vince, do you know how to get me back to Zoom? Get me back on Zoom?
Is this being recorded?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is great. This is what happens in a class. We have some technical difficulties and we figure it out.
Yeah, I can't get the demo back. I can see her and hear her.
What if you click on the one of the people just to bring?
Oh, click on, okay, I'll click on Lisa.
Lisa, I have a question for you about the
Sure.
photocopies.
Uh-huh.
So you talk about using an inkjet printer.
Yes.
Does a laser print work?
All of a sudden.
The laser printer, it will work, yes, but here, let me adjust my, I don't even know where I am. And a laser printer, the only fall with a laser printer is that the ink of that will also cause your paint to ball up a little bit. So you'll have to work a little harder to make sure it accepts it'll repel water. I gotta do this, otherwise I'm gonna. So back to doing this. I got, otherwise it's all gonna dry up. So I got lots of medium on my canvas. I have it on the front of my piece because I had it face down, right? And now I'm hoping that it didn't dry too much. Oh boy. Anyway, so I turned it over and I put medium on the back. This is starting to dry now, but I can't do anything about it. So you have to act fast. And then you just place it on you've got some time normally to adjust it, to get it to fit on your substrate the way you want it to fit. Let's say that fits. It doesn't, but it's tacky now, so it would have been a little wetter and a little easier to maneuver, but.
Excuse me, I missed that. Did you paint that stuff on the front and back?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and now I've placed it on my substrate, my board. And so this is important. You want to go from the middle of your image down and from the middle up and the middle to each side. And if you can see, I've got a bubble here, and that's the reason why I do it from the middle, because and then I'm going to push from the middle all the way around. I'm going to chase that bubble out all the way around. Just go around the clock, pressing pretty hard, and that should get all your bubbles out. And then you can leave whatever brush strokes you want. And then this, although it doesn't look like, maybe it doesn't look like it's completely clear to you, it does dry. It goes on a little bit translucent, but it dries completely clear. So that is this matte medium.
Do you have examples of your work like on your Facebook page?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have, just go to Lisa Bebi anywhere and you'll see lots of work.
Okay, great.
I have a lisabebi.com. The work
Okay.
on there's kind of old, but I have
I
Instagram.
have a question, if I may. Do you ever have problems with the inkjet pigment running when you start painting on it? Because it is usually water soluble unless you have a pigment printer, right?
Right. I don't. And the reason is because I used to, because I think the inks have become better. So when I used to do this years ago, like 10 years ago, I used to just coat my whole thing real quickly with a medium, and then it would let it dry, it'd be fixed, and then I could paint on top. The problem with that is, and what I've evolved to understand is then it's sealed, and then I don't have the advantage of being able to drop the colors in like we did with the skin tone. So we don't have that problem anymore because they've improved the inks, and it's good enough. And it doesn't, did anybody have a problem with running?
Oh, good.
No? You can unmute and tell me.
No,
So that's
I just have
why
an
I
older
really,
printer.
what?
That's good to know. Thank you. I said I have an older printer, but that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. The ink should be better. If not, then you may have to do the method of just putting on real quickly the medium so that it fixes it, or you could use a laser. It's just that the laser just makes you work a little harder because, like I say, it repels the water at first, and then you can kind of work it, agitate it a little bit, and then the paint will go in.
Do you let the inkjet print dry for a while, like overnight, or just
No,
use
no,
it right
I
away?
just, not me. I
Okay.
run them off and paint on them right away because I'm
Great, thank you.
impatient. So,
Thank you.
yeah, no, I mean, you could, another alternative, if you got a really old one and somehow it does bleed and it's just a mess. Well, first of all, you might want to check to make sure you have decent paper. I used to say use the cheapest possible paper because we wanted it to be thin because we were going to put it on. My reasoning was that I was putting it on canvas and I didn't want the cut lines to show. I wanted it to be real thin and just sort of mesh into the canvas. Over time, number one, I realized that nobody cares about cut lines. You know, when you paint over, no one, it's not an issue really. Also one time I was teaching at Art Fest and someone got, I don't know where she got the cheapest, really cheapest. I've never seen anything. So it was like toilet paper tissue that and it totally disintegrated. So after that I said, don't, you know, I didn't stop saying getting the cheapest paper, but any kind of copy paper works. I've recently switched up to the bright white because I'm teaching and I'm teaching online, and I wanted for you to be able to for sure see what I'm doing. And I kind of like it, but generally I'm doing vintage work or something that looks like a memory and so a bright white I have to work against that. So I have to stain it and, you know, make it look older. But I wouldn't get anything more expensive than that. The more expensive papers have something in it that it makes it less porous. The other thing I can say is if you have a cheap printer and you do have a little problem of the ink running, you can always heat gun it and like heat set it, and that should help.
Thank you.
Or put it in the dryer. That's what I do. I do so many experiments in my home here, my home studio, that sometimes I don't do wise things. And years ago, I was doing some coffee stained paper and I got impatient. So I put them all in the dryer. And then my husband wears white shirts to work.
Oh.
And that caused a little problem. Anyway.
So you say you've been able to do this on canvas as well once you've painted it, you can transfer it to canvas.
Yeah. I also on bigger, sometimes I do it differently, you know. Sometimes I'm working on a really big, you know, 6 foot size canvas, and I get my if I'm using photocopies, I'll go to the printer and ask for them to print it in the blueprint printer, because that's the cheapest way you can do it. And they do black and white, and it's not crystal clear, but it's good enough for me. So anyway, I have these, you know, when I have these great big pieces that I want to adhere to my bigger canvases, sometimes I paint them first and then adhere them, you know, because I'm not doing just a sheet of it. I'm doing like maybe I have a car I'm putting in there or something. And or sometimes I'll just put it down and then paint on it afterwards. Like this one that I just did, I can, once it dries, I wouldn't do it now because it's still wet, and the matte medium was gonna act as like, it'll make my paint it'll make it more see-through. So I wait for it to dry, and I could just paint on top and keep working. You could just keep adding and adding until you've got a mountain of paint on there.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I hope you were able to follow along. I was worried about this pace of half hour, which is over half hour. And because in my classes, they're usually 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours, maybe longer. And, so.
I'm sorry, can I ask one question? I might be really
Sure.
obtuse, but so what you're saying is that now that has adhered to the canvas and you will paint on top of the paper?
I can. I don't know if I can. It's tacky now. I wouldn't do it now. I'd wait for it to dry, and then I can.
Yeah, you'd wait for it to dry. And so that is actually the technique, is you're painting paper and then adhering it to the canvas and then going back over and repainting with acrylic on top.
No, I'm just saying I could. No, usually once I paint on paper and I'm satisfied with that, that's the other good thing about painting on paper first. If you don't like it, you toss it and do another
Okay.
one until you get one you like. And then the last thing I do is that's nice, Diana. I adhere it and then I sell it. I sell it.
Okay.
I show my papers, and then when they sell, then I adhere it. And then but that's how I work now, because things could go wrong in the adhering stage. So anyway, so I have my papers, and then if I sell it, then I put it down on a canvas and put the wiring on the back, sign my name.
Okay.
It goes.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
I'm saying that you have options. Here's a painting I did that I don't really like. So in that, I don't know when I did it before. And this is cut. The cut line is here. But because I brushed outside of the lines, you really can't see the cut line. I mean, maybe you can. The cut line is all the way down here. It looks like, anyway, I don't like this painting. So, I can glue another piece on top of this, or I can just put it on top of it, or do whatever. Or fix it.
Okay, great.
So there's kind of like endless what you can do. So yeah. Someone asked me if I'm going to teach how to do transfers, and I think on I'm teaching 3 sessions, and the last session I will show how to do a water transfer. It's not hard. And the reason I don't do it as a practice is because it's a lot of work. I mean, it's more work than just gluing down a piece of paper, and the result, I like my result on paper. But I will teach it. So it's a simple process. It's just that once you get your paper down, you have to rub it off. Rubbing, I don't care to do. So, but anyway, I can teach it.
Are they all half-hour classes, Lisa?
What?
Are they all 30 minutes?
No, just this demo. Now the
Okay.
class, I think it's a 3 hour. You got to look on there. I think it's 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
Each.
Okay.
Some last 10 hours,
Some are 2 hours.
no,
I put the link to her class in the chat. It is Fridays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it
Okay.
starts April 23rd. So it's 6 total Fridays, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Thanks.
I can tell you it's a good price for the amount of hours that you get.
Okay. Good to see you, Lisa.
What?
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Sally, we went to school together in high school.
Yeah,
You look the same.
you do too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank
Thank
you.
Yeah,
you.
thank you. It's good seeing you. I hope I see you again.
Really interesting. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right.
Thank you,
Now
Lisa.
you know how to
Great
do
demo.
it.
You.
Everybody.
All right.
bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Hi.